Going to the Leafs, by the way. I want to talk about the future in net because people are starting to talk about Jack Campbell in New Jersey, which I'm kind of like, tampering doesn't exist, I guess.
That's actually funny because before that report came out, like a week ago, I was thinking, where could Jack Campbell go? And my mind did go right to New Jersey.
I mean, I think we all it makes sense, right? People have been talking about the contract. It's funny, we were talking about the Ville Husso stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what contract he sort of looks at because Jack Campbell's a weird sort of tier because he's older and this is his big contract, right? People were saying that apparently his camp, I can't remember who the reporter was, I'm so sorry, that the number was around $5 million, and people were like, he's not worth Demko numbers. He's an RFA. It's a little different. Okay.
Also, like, no, like, actually, I also like, I really think an agent should walk into a negotiation and just give the most realistic number.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's what Alan Walsh does.
Where do you see Jack? You think Jack stays? Because even if they meet them, if they go towards 4, the thing with Campbell is I still don't know what he is in a way. Like we've clarified he's not elite, but it's like, okay, he's not like a 935 either. Well, that's elite. No. Sorry, but like, is he where he finished at a 915 because his season was such a roller coaster, and he wasn't the reason they lost in the playoffs, but he didn't look like a showstopper. So it's like,
well, it's hard when you have the best goalie in the world on the other side. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to look at goaltending in that series in any light other than, he could have been better, but like also context, who's on the other side of him.
I don't know where to go with him.
Again, okay. I might be extremely, extremely harsh here.
Yeah.
He's probably at his best. I'd argue he's a 1B. And is that fair? Is that fair? Yeah. Right. Because it's hard because of his injury history. It's going to be hard to get more than 40 games out of it. Well, how many did he play this year?
I'll check. You keep going.
It's just it's hard for me to imagine him playing consistently more than 40 games without there being issues in between, right? Like he could probably play more games, but that's where it becomes an issue.
So he's a career 915, but the problem is he's only in his career played 142 games. This past season he played 49.
And and there was a stretch where he was injured and was playing, which the Leafs should know better than that, by the way. Second year in a row they've done that. But the thing is, then you need to have someone else there. And obviously Mrazek ain't it, and he's probably not going to be here next season.
Yeah, he's gone.
You need to get someone who can play either the rest of the games, or you need to find someone who's better than Jack Campbell, able to play, let's throw in 45 to 50 games, for example, and the playoffs. Or we go, Jack Campbell's not coming back. You have 2 new goalies next season. You go out and get John Gibson or Connor Hellebuck, like you've been clamoring for, and you get a guy who can.
On that. I have a scenario later on.
Okay, and you bring in a guy who can play, let's say, 25 games to be safe, at least keeping Gibson or Hellebuck relatively rested for the playoffs. Those are really your 2 scenarios.
See, I see a goalie who hasn't stolen them a series, who is 30 and has some injury problems. And I'm like, if we look at history, Anderson gone. Now, we knew like that whole year it sounded like he wasn't coming back, but if I'm the Leafs, and listen, at least publicly, for whatever that means, not much. Dubas has been very complimentary of Jack Campbell. But I just don't, if I'm the Leafs at this point, and I think we've just talked about it, if you look at the eastern side of the playoffs right now, goaltending is king right now. So if I'm Kyle Dubas, so this is my own thing, right? I think the way that Morgan Riley and that defense has sort of played out, I'm maybe sort of double thinking, do you necessarily need a 1A? Like, you know what I mean? Like, look at, obviously, 3 of the 4 teams in the finals right now. You know, you have Hedman, Makar, and Fox, who are all amazing, but it's like Darnell Nurse is good, but him and Riley are that same sort of level. So maybe I'm a little wrong about you need a number 1 horse guarantee, because I thought that defense core for the Leafs is pretty good. Maybe you tune it because Justin Hall into the sun. He wasn't bad, but still, Justin Hall, it's enough of that. Enough of Justin Hall. No more of that, please. But if there's one side of the game, and you know how consistent I am with this idea, if you're going to be sure in one spot, it's got to be in net and down the middle. You know what I mean? If you got the 1A, who knows what's going on with Tavares? Who knows? But you at least have the number 1 center. Let's go out and get a legit goaltender. And if they're moving on from Sandin, which I'm not saying they are, I don't know any of that.
Oh my Lord, I can't
package him
believe
in a deal for John Gibson. If Anaheim and John Gibson are willing to make that work.
Yeah, well, let's start with I cannot believe 32 Thoughts started this. I think that's hilarious. From a source told Elliot Friedman to watch this. Haven't heard anything else other than that, by the way. It's a source told me to look out for this. That's all that was said. I mean, that is an option. If you're comfortable with John Gibson, and maybe they're not comfortable with John Gibson, they're comfortable with someone even better than that, or someone they think is better than that. I would be willing to probably move Rasmus Sandin.
So, because
like you're gonna sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but you're gonna have to give up something, right? The whole thing at this trade deadline was they didn't want to give up their top prospects and their first round pick, which is fine because I don't think, like, no offense to Mark Giordano or Colin Blackwell, that wasn't needed in that trade. Realistically, it wasn't needed in that trade. But if you're going out there and you're gonna get a top goaltender or top-ish goaltender, right? Someone better than you've had. You want someone like Frederick Anderson was for the first 2 years as a Leaf, minus the playoff hiccups. You're going to have to give up top prospects. And I wouldn't be surprised if Rasmus Sandin was included in a potential deal, depending on how they view Mark Giordano.
Like if we yeah, it's fair. Like, I'm looking at some of the goaltenders available around right now, and I'm thinking, I think Blackwood's an RFA. That's not a sure thing. I don't want anything to do with it. We look at the UFA market. Maybe Fleury if he wants to come, but I'm not convinced. No. Like, it really feels like he's probably going back to Pittsburgh or he's staying in Minnesota. The man doesn't want to keep moving the family. Koskinen apparently is going back overseas. Don't blame him. Darcy Kemper. No. Thomas Greiss, no. Halak, no. Georgiev, no. Holtby as a backup, I wouldn't mind, but as a number, no. Martin, no. Samsonov, who knows what's going on there, but no.
I don't even, like, let's look at Holtby as a 1B. I don't know effect. Like, it's just, I don't think that's what they should go and get. If you're keeping Campbell and then you're bringing in Holtby, I'm not a fan of that. To be honest.
Sir. I was thinking, but you get Gibson, Holtby.
Gibson, if you're bringing in a number 1 goalie, go ahead, bring in Braden Holtby.
I lost my train of. Okay.
Sorry.
You know what? Or if you want to be really fun about this, I don't know if he's offer sheet eligible. But you know who's an RFA, right?
Oh, I think I know who you're talking
Jake
about.
Ottinger.
Okay, let's go check. Let's see if
go.
That would be madness, wouldn't it?
Imagine how funny that'd be. Come on, let's get this going. Listen, if there's one thing that came out of the KK stuff, I really hope it's that people believe that the offer sheet's a real tool.
Which I doubt will happen, but I agree. I hope they do that. That would be interesting.
Offer
yeah,
sheet, Ottinger.
Like I think if, and I agree with you. I think if I look at this team, where is their quote unquote weakness? They've never had a goaltender steal a series for them.
No,
not even close, unfortunately.
No.
And like it's difficult, obviously, because the last 2 years they played the best goalie of this generation and the best goalie of the generation that's ending. But the point being, it wasn't up there.
Yes.
And I think if you're looking for that, I don't know if the 1A, 1B approach or the 1B, 1B approach, which I think we got this year, was good enough, and it won't be good enough moving forward.
I appreciate that you complimented Carey there, by the way. I appreciate that because listen, like if you think, and this isn't to you, I should say, if you're anyone out there and you think Campbell was as good as Vasilevsky or Price, people thought that. Give your heads a shake.
No, yeah. I think he stood. There's no doubt in my mind he stood his ground. He was not better. He was not as good or better than that.
And there's the problem is you weren't the worst goalie, but you were the lesser of the two. And that's the problem. Is Campbell good? Yes. Is he good enough? And that's, can he steal a series? And I don't know if he can do that. That's the big question.
I agree, but I think it's hard to look at the last 2 first-round losses and talk about goaltending because of the quality of goaltending that they played. Now, if we want to go back further, we want to look at Tuukka Rask and we want to look at Braden Holtby, for example. And I mean, no disrespect to them, they're not Carey Price and Andre Vasilevsky.
He was better back then, Holtby, but he wasn't.
Yes, but
he had Barry Trotz.
And again, that first, like that one, I don't really count it as, I was amazing to watch, but
house money.
But yeah, I think it's just hard to say, well, he couldn't steal them the series. Yeah, because he was playing against Andre Vasilevsky. That's unrealistic, and there's a lack of context there. To say he'd be able to steal the series, they would need Igor Shesterkin in net, and they're not going to get that, right?
Or Gibson or Ottinger.
Maybe.
Ottinger could steal you a series if you could score a goal.
And I think the Leafs can do that. I believe so.
I would tend to agree the Leafs can score goals. Unlike the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Hey there, Michael Raffle. Never forget.